Well, hi. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. Coming up on this program, you're going to want to pay attention to this one as Council Bluffs Mayor Matt Walsh will be joining us. And I had an opportunity to talk with him very recently and discussions about Dodge Park, about the housing concerns that we have in Council Bluffs, mainly the lack of. We just don't have that much. Also, he talks about that streetcar project that everybody seems to be it's in front of everybody's mind, and a lot more. We have a really, really good and candid discussion. It's just something that I always appreciate about Mayor Walsh is you don't get politician speak from him. He just tells you like it is. It's here's how things are, and here's exactly what it is that we're doing. And he's very open about that. So you're going to want to tune in for that. That is coming up here very shortly on the program. Also, a thank you to the Teammates Mentoring organization. They hosted a coffee and contacts with the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce yesterday, and got to learn more about them, who they are, found out that, they have a waiting list. They've got kids waiting for mentors right now. So getting involved with them might be something to get right on the top of your list of things to do. They said that the application process is, everything gets easier after that. They want to make sure that they're bringing the right people into the program, but the actual mentoring part, you're going to make a difference in a kid's life. It was founded by former Nebraska football coach Tom Osborne, and as it turns out, you don't need to be a Nebraska fan to be a mentor. How about that? You can learn more by going to teammates.org and fill out the application and get involved and be able to help out a young person. Lots of kids right here in Council Bluffs could use a mentor. So give some consideration to being a part of that. Also, we want to remind you that if you ever feel like you're stuck in a cycle of blame, frustration, or uncertainty, it's time to spiral up. The Spiral of Accountability by Carol Horner is your guide to breaking free from the fog of confusion, stepping into a clear, productive conversation, both at work and in life. Learn how to turn self-doubt into action and team conflict into collaboration. It's packed with powerful insights and a simple, practical model. Book is a must-read for leaders, teams, anyone ready to take accountability to the next level. It's available right now on Carol's website, spiralofaccountability.com. Do you need top quality custom metal fabrication? Look no further than Foxco Fabrication in Council Bluffs. From welding and CNC cutting to custom design and repairs, they bring precision and craftsmanship to every project, big or small. So whether it's your business, home, or next big idea, Foxco Fabrication delivers durable, high quality work on time and on budget. Visit foxcofab.com to get started. That is Foxco Fabrication, built to last, made for you. And stop out at GT Motors on Broadway in Council Bluffs. They have an ever-changing inventory to get you into a quality used vehicle. You're going to find trucks, and last time I was just past there, they had a lot of trucks on their lot. They also have large and small SUVs, passenger cars, and you might even find a sports car on the lot. GT Motors can help by checking out their inventory at gtmotorscb.com. They may have cars on the lot that aren't on the website, though, because sometimes it takes a couple of days to get there. So it's always best to stop out at the lot at 21st and Broadway. That is GT Motors in Council Bluffs. We now welcome a special guest, Mayor Matt Walsh of Council Bluffs, onto the show. Thank you so much, sir, for taking a little bit of time out of your schedule to talk about this. There's a lot of exciting things that are going on around Council Bluffs right now, and I could think of no better person than to sit down to talk to about that. So thank you.
Morning, Todd. Great to see you. And it really is a time in the history of Council Bluffs like I've never seen before. And so it is an exciting time. We'll enjoy an opportunity to share some of those things with you.
Well, we're seeing a lot of development. I'm seeing new businesses all the time, just based on the ribbon cuttings through the Chamber of Commerce of those alerts that I get. And that kind of growth, I think, is indicative of exactly what is happening in our community.
Yeah, they, a big percentage of employers in the business world are locally owned businesses, and that chamber certainly activity is indicative of those locally owned businesses and the fact that they're not only locating the Council Bluffs, but those that located years ago are expanding. And so we're excited about that. And then we've got some really big projects on the horizon that we're excited about as well. So,
well, we'll talk about those big projects. One of the things is that as you talk about companies coming to town and new businesses being started, they all have people working for them, which means we have to have a place for people to live. And as most of us know, housing can be a little tight right now in Council Bluffs.
Yeah, housing's tight throughout the country. After the 2007 real estate market crash, and then COVID policy and supply chain shakeups and rising interest rates, none of those things were good for housing. We had just got our data from the census, and we have about 0.6% owner-occupied inventory and 1.7% rental inventory. And to kind of put some context to that, at 8% vacancy rental inventory, they say that starts to drive homelessness. Reason being supply and demand. There's not enough supply, and if there's excess demand, then rental rates go up, and at some point people get priced out of the market. And so we are diligently working to bring new rental property online, focusing there more than the owner-occupied. There's some hiccups in the owner-occupied market with that group of people who got 2 and 3% interest rates and hesitant to move again and exchange that 2 or 3% interest rate for a 6 or 7% interest rate. So we hope those interest rates come down, and that'll be self-correcting. But the city's made a concerted effort to make sure that rental property gets constructed. And I think if you drive around town, you can see examples of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of new apartment complexes going up in different parts of town, and I know that there's housing developments in the works too that are planned. And
yes,
you talked about with the interest rates, sometimes families are left with no choice, and time kind of brings that on because as their families grow, they need more space.
Yeah,
and so that just kind of creates, all right, we have to figure out a way to work around this higher interest rate.
and as a 30-year banker, I'd tell you that these interest rates really are below what would be the average interest rate over the last 30 years. I drove by the first house that I bought the other day and pointed out to somebody and commented that my interest rate on that home was 18%. And so when you're talking 6 or 7%, it's really not out of the realm. But again, psychologically, if you double the interest rate over a 30-year loan, you're going to pay double the amount of interest. And so it's a consideration certainly of some people who don't have to move, that they say, I'm just going to wait for the interest rates to come down, and then that contributes to the crunch of unavailable owner-occupied property.
Yeah, so it's kind of a psychological issue. It's the same thing that, like right now, 5 years ago, $2.50 for a dozen eggs would have seemed outrageous. Now, if a store had them at $2.50, there'd be a run on them.
Literally. It's interesting times, certainly, and the market's not reacting well to instability, and so things will clear up, I'm sure, and we'll get back to normal.
One of another area that folks have been talking a lot about, and I know meetings have been being held, is down at the golf course by the river. That is there anything concrete about that? Is it still just in planning stages?
It's a study, and Iowa West has been a great benefactor. So we're not using taxpayer dollars to do the study, but that golf course historically lost about $350,000 every year. And we've got that turned around. And so 12 months ago, because we don't have year-end December numbers yet, but 12 months ago, it made $202,000, and that's the most it's ever made. That was a great year with a warm spring and a very warm fall. People were golfing into February, $202,000. It is strategically located near downtown Omaha. And just to give people an idea, the Broadmoor apartments, which are on the north side of Broadway as you go to Omaha, not the entire apartment complex, but just The horseshoe-shaped building sits on 4 acres, 4 stories, tax assessed, $24 million, pays a little less than $500,000 a year in property taxes. The golf course has 150 acres, and so conceivably it could accommodate, when you calculate in for streets and in infrastructure, it still could accommodate 15 to 20 of those buildings. And so we think that there's opportunity to build that out and create an additional 10 to 15 million in property tax base. Property taxes are a two-sided formula, valuation times tax levy. We all know, we talked about eggs, inflationary factors make costs go up, and in order to be able to afford those, there are 2 ways to address it: either to raise people's taxes, which I don't have an appetite for, I don't think most people do, or create additional tax base. And so we think there's a real opportunity to create tax base down at Dodge Park Golf Course. I'm sensitive to golfers and the fact that they love that golf course. It's been a city course since 1927. But there are 3 other golf courses in town. If we could generate 10 to 15 million more in property tax, our total property tax asking for this year will be $62 million. That is about 13% of that amount. If it were done today and fully occupied, in theory, we could lower our taxes about 10% for across the board for everybody, just for that one development. And so we've hired HDR, an Omaha engineering firm, to really do the math, to assess what the infrastructure installation costs are, to discuss strategies to get it developed. Would the city have to put in infrastructure? Would a master developer put in infrastructure? Would it be a hybrid of those two, in hopes that we could develop that? As I said earlier, we've got 1.7% vacancy, and so we have a serious need for housing. UNMC's got a project that they think they're going to hire 8,700 new people in the next 10 years. It's 42 blocks from Dodge Park. And the other thing that I don't think people realize, Nebraska's annexation law limits their growth solely to Douglas County. And so Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, is quickly running out of buildable property. The only way that they'll be able to grow is to tear down something and build new, rather than take vacant ground and build on it. So that will, we think, push people either to Sarpy County, which they are preparing, they're putting in sewer and water to their vacant ground, or to Council Bluffs. We are preparing, we're doing a sewer study for Highway 92. And so we're working on the problem. Things don't happen overnight. Government sometimes feels like it moves slow, but I think we're ahead of many other Iowa communities.
There's a general feeling, and I wanted to get your opinion about this, that folks in Council Bluffs are more apt to travel to the west to go to Omaha than vice versa, and folks from Omaha come in this direction. Do you feel that a project like this and a development like this could maybe stem that a little bit and change that?
We think from people living in Council Bluffs, it certainly has the potential to do that. The inflows and outflows of daily working population are about equal. In fact, I think a little more Nebraskans come into Omaha now. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 Nebraskans work in Council Bluffs, and mid 18,500 go to Omaha to work every day. And so there's a big exchange, but as we all know, the Omaha housing additions are out at 190th and 200th, and you're driving in the major traffic flows going to work and coming home from work, and so you're commute is lengthened, and if you're coming from Council Bluffs, you recognize that the commute is much shorter because you're not fighting that traffic. And frankly, we take better care of our snow removal needs in the wintertime. And so we think that the right project down by the riverfront, market rate housing would be a big draw. And proof to that is I've had every major developer in Omaha show interest in developing at Dodge Park. We will at some point test the waters to see if we have regional developers who are interested in doing that project. But we think it's viable. But at this point, I just want to say that as an old banker, an adage I'd heard was the banker's job is to find the clouds on the silver lining. And so we don't want to be too optimistic. We want to make sure that it's viable, that there will be absorption, which means that people will move there. And so we're doing the study prior to really investing any taxpayer dollars. And Iowa West is paying for that study. So no taxpayer dollars have been invested at this point.
Is there any thought to business development included in that, or is it strictly residential?
There would be some, I guess a similar example, but maybe not as much restaurant activity would be what's happened in the Exarban area. There would be businesses that would provide services to the people that live there. We've talked about the potential for a new school. There are all the schools in the West End have pretty much reached capacity, and so if you had a combined YMCA school facility that makes sense in today's world, if you had what they call missing middle housing that's rental but not high-rise apartments, it's more townhome, row house type homes, and then augment that with high-rise apartments. We think it could be a very appealing product to young people. If you're graduate from college and you want to come back to Council Bluffs to live and work, honestly, your best hope's to live in your parents' basement. There just is not any apartments available. I've heard people say that Broadmoor project's only half full. That couldn't be further from the truth. They have at least an 8-month waiting list and really won't even show people apartments, because whoever's looking today, 8 months from now, will not be interested. And so fully occupied, really almost fully occupied from day one. That's why they keep building more. And as soon as they get them built, those get occupied. So there's demand. We just need to meet the demand. And you can see other apartment projects. Avenue A, there's a project going up. Veterans Memorial Highway, there's a project going up. Valley View, there's a project going up. I think in total right now, and Broadmoor's got some going up. In total right now under construction, we have about 1,800 units. And so that's a big help when, we're in total in Council Bluffs, we probably have somewhere between 26 and 29,000 units. If you can add 1,800, that's a significant percentage. And we have another 1,800 proposed that are going through their due diligence. And so we think we're going to make a dent in dearth of supply and have some availability, but we're not resting on our laurels. We're keeping working and trying to solve that. Additionally, we've got a project that we use ARPA money on down on East Manawa. We bought about 96 acres, elevated it up out of the floodplain. We just got a grant from the state of Iowa for $6.8 million to put in streets and infrastructure. We have our first project going, which is 40 units of affordable housing. They are 10 fourplexes that have common walls, but 4 different owners. So you would buy, it's not a rental situation. You buy the home, and so that project started out well. We're going to take that money, and as we sell lots, we'll roll it over into developing additional lots and sell those lots to developers. The city's not going to build the houses, but we did do the development, taking the profit motive of a developer out of it so that we can make the lots affordable, and that we can get some homes for young families that need housing. So,
and it sounds like it's an ongoing process that to just keep adding more and more residential housing to be able to handle all of this. And it sounds like there's a lot of things in place to be able to do that. One other project that it's been talked about for a long time, and it kind of there's passion on both sides, is the streetcar. And I wanted to get your thoughts about where things are at right now, and with the cooperation with Omaha and having the streetcar going back and forth. Is there any new developments at all?
Well, again, we asked the help of Iowa West Foundation to do a Pell study. And that's the initial study to see if we would qualify for the federal government to pay for the cost of the streetcar. That Pell stands for Planning Environmental Linkages. It's a planning study, and the environmental part of it is not contamination. It's historical, cultural, things like if you build a streetcar and new housing gets built along the streetcar line, would that cause gentrification? Would it force people who need more affordable housing out as new housing gets built, and what would happen to those people? And so that's the initial study that needs to be done. I think people get confused and they see metro area transit's buses go down Broadway, and on a good route they maybe have 3 people on the bus, and so people say, why would you put a streetcar in? Nobody rides the bus. Why would they ride a streetcar? First of all, it's not a transportation play, it's an economic development play. And we've studied, I've been to Salt Lake City, Dallas, Charlotte, other people in the office have been to Pittsburgh, Kansas City. Everywhere they put in a streetcar, it excites development. Developers see an opportunity to build something that their customer finds value in, that is an amenity that nobody else can replicate. I've heard, early on Warren Buffett said, well, just move the bus around. But the problem with that is a developer says, well, I'm going to invest my money, and then you're going to move the bus to some other street. And so it's not there. But everywhere I've been, it is literally like water in the desert, and development springs out of the ground. And probably the closest place people could go look is Kansas City and their streetcar route, and they are expanding it as we speak even further. But it went from trying to remember their place by the Crown Hotel up to and past their sports arena. That population has grown by 40,000 people in less than 5 years. Those dilapidated buildings are now fine dining restaurants. They've built tons of apartment complexes. Like I say, it just happens everywhere. Now, it's not cheap. Kansas City is $100 million a mile is what they spent. And why it's so expensive for them is they tear up the street, they have to pave new street with rail in it, and under the street they have infrastructure that they replace because they don't want to get all that done and have a water line break or a gas line break, and then they have to shut down the streetcar and replace that. Omaha has seen some of that too. I think MUD estimated their infrastructure replacement at $425 million. In Council Bluffs, the difference is that we have a straight shot on First Avenue that doesn't have any infrastructure under it. It was a rail line that served the industrial users on the west end of Council Bluffs that no longer exist, and so the railway pulled up their track and said, "Here's your street back," and it's just a straight shot of undeveloped grass, a block off of Broadway. If you go down today, we put in the First Avenue bike trail. It's a beautiful bike trail. It's got national attention. We pushed it all to one side of that First Avenue corridor. But if you go down there and look at it in a different light, all the bicycle rest areas are at all the key transportation nodes: 35th Street, 27th Street, 25th Street, 23rd, and those rest areas could easily be retrofit to a streetcar stop. And so we have that infrastructure in that primarily was, again, paid for by the iOS Foundation. And so if we get the federal money, I fully comprehend that we can't strap this cost on the back of Council Bluffs taxpayers, but the federal government would pay, at least this is what they did in Kansas City. They paid 80% of the cost of the bridge to go to North Kansas City, and they pay 50% of the track. Our 50% is an affordable amount, and we have philanthropic organizations interested in helping to pay for that cost, and we have an opportunity that nobody else has of this stretch of ground that's undeveloped, that literally we could put the tracks in the dirt. I don't think we'll do that. We'll probably do some type of hard surface base and put the tracks in there. But the streetcar stops are already there. And so it's certainly worth investigating. And the same story I told you about Dodge Park, we're not going to jump until we know that it makes sense, that we have all our ducks in a row. We're not going to waste taxpayer money, but it would be foolish not to investigate. We had a consultant look at it. They estimate the potential for development along the streetcar at $5.5 billion, primarily again in housing, and then those commercial businesses that supply the amenities that support dense multi-family housing. So it could be transformative for the community. If we can't afford it, we can't afford it. It's worth looking into.
Is this something that would absolutely require the cooperation of Omaha, or is this? Because I know you're working on it independently, but there's still a group thing, cooperations. Yeah. But can it happen? Let's say that somehow it didn't happen in Omaha. Would it still happen in Council Bluffs?
It would not, I don't think. And the reason I say that is that we do not intend to run our own streetcar authority. We would work with Omaha to hire the employees to do the maintenance, and Omaha will build a maintenance facility. We would not build a maintenance facility over here. We would, again, contract with Omaha to operate it. I think it's going to happen in Omaha. I don't know why it wouldn't. They've already bought their streetcars. They've already torn up their streets. I know there's a mayor's race that some of the candidates hoping to become the mayor are using that as a hot button issue. But the other thing I don't think people realized is that at one time in somewhere around 1930, the second largest streetcar system in the United States, second only behind Boston, was in Council Bluffs, Omaha, the Omaha Council Bluffs Streetcar Association. So
didn't there used to be a streetcar that ran up to Fairmount Park?
Yes.
Did I read that right?
Yep. Down to Manawa. On the weekends, they charged extra to get to Manawa to enjoy Manawa and all the amenities Manawa had at the time, which were a zoo and a dance hall and an amusement park. All that was down at Manawa and funded primarily from streetcar activity. And so it's it's an interesting concept that, like I say, it's amazing to me everywhere I've seen it how development just springs out of the ground when it starts. And I was sitting in downtown Omaha, about 16th Street, having dinner at a restaurant, and you can look up into those buildings, and they're already converting them to apartment complexes. And so those old twin towers that red brick buildings about 13th and Harney, those are all converting to apartments. And so I think it works.
Before we wrap things up, Mayor, I wanted to give you an opportunity to brag a little bit about the city park system, because people talk about the county park system, and rightfully so. We have a great one. But I think that the park system that we have in town around Council Bluffs, and I mentioned Fairmont Park, which is one of my favorite places to go, but the rest of them as well, I think is kind of flies under the radar, and it's a little bit of an unsung feature that we have here in town.
Yeah, we got a great parks department. Of course, top of that, and one way we keep property taxes low is by creating tourism. And so our sports complex, which is one of the finest in the Midwest, and they have events there, be it soccer or baseball or softball, and a lot of those events bring in people from out of town that bring in grandmother and grandfather and mom and the kids, and they stay in hotels, they eat in restaurants, and all those people pay hotel motel tax and sales tax, and so that helps the community. We were lucky enough to get a grant from a local business, Power Tech, to redo Cochran Park, and it's got pickleball courts and new playground equipment and a softball library kiosk, and it's really brought new life to that park. Parks are not inexpensive. When you build a park, you have to maintain it, and so we're judicious about what we do, but if we've got it, we're going to maintain it. And as you say, we've got multiple great park system. Fairmont's been a little bit of a struggle. It's just a huge mass of land that at one time was the premier park in town, and then for decades it got neglected. We put a splash pad up. We put a disc golf up there. We've got some new things going in this year, but unfortunately it's so big that if funding gets tight, it tends to lose its projects on the chopping block. And then I just want to say, while we're talking about this, again, I know I'm giving them a lot of credit. They deserve a lot of credit. Iowa West Foundation at the riverfront is building a $50+ million riverfront park that will be a treetop walk that you can get out and walk over the trees and look at the Missouri River. It's got a Olympic quality climbing wall that they will have competitions at. It's got a roller glider, which is a derivation of a zip line, but rather than going straight, it goes up and down and around. They're going to have a dog park. They're going to have a state-of-the-art kids playground. It's going to be very much complementary to what's going on the other side of the river to Gene Leahy. So they are under construction now. My sense is that they'll probably open spring of next year or so.
So what I love about the development that's happening is, and I've talked about, River's Edge being this way, that you could take that and drop it into any metropolitan community in the country and it would fit. It's when it's done, it's being done correctly. And that's what I get really excited about. The trails were just recently redone at Fairmont, which I love. You can go to Fairmont and it's like you're in nature. Yeah. When you're walking around those trails. There's new developments at Valley View, which is a huge park. And there's so many different places. And you see kids with the soccer teams practicing there and ball games being played and everything that's going on there. So it's a monster system that we have.
Yeah,
but I think
we put in
great.
a new dog park. And I think in the first month we had over 2,000 visitors. they've got a counter that counts the people that go through and the dogs that go through. And so I don't know how many people, and I don't know how many dogs' legs get counted, but lots of people are using that dog park. And so it's a process, and it's a process. Again, we got to be cognizant of the fact that Council Bluffs is not the most affluent community, and so we have to take the money that we take and use it wisely. So
I would agree that's
I think
that's what's happening.
Yeah, we want to be responsible to the taxpayers.
Council Bluffs Mayor Matt Walsh, thank you, sir, for your
Thank
time. I'm grateful for it, and hope to see you back on the show again soon.
Always great to talk with you. Have a great week.
Is your business technology working for you or against you? At ThinkSpace IT, they provide expert IT solutions to keep your system secure, efficient, and running smoothly. From cybersecurity and cloud services to network management and tech support, they help businesses stay ahead in a fast-moving digital world. Let ThinkSpace IT handle your IT so you can focus on what you do best. Visit ThinkSpaceIT.com today. ThinkSpace IT, technology simplified. Do you have a leak? Maybe a clogged drain, or do you need a full plumbing upgrade? Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. From repairs and remodels to water heaters and new installations, Waldstein Plumbing's expert team delivers fast, reliable service you can trust. Don't let plumbing problems slow you down. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com. That is Waldstein Plumbing. Quality work, honest service every time. Thank you again to Council Bluffs Mayor Matt Walsh for being our guest on the show today. Tomorrow, we've been promising that we're going to start doing our food reviews by going to area restaurants. We have the first one for you tomorrow. The Milo Way is now serving lunch. They are opening up at 11, and you can stop out there for lunch every day. It used to be not open till 4, but now they are serving lunch Tuesday through Friday through the week, and still the regular hours. They're open for breakfast on Saturday and Sunday. So we stopped out Bryce Taylor of GLI Insurance and also the founder of the Council Bluffs Food Lovers Group on Facebook. We stopped out there, and I'm going to be bringing you that coming up tomorrow right here on the show. Thank you so much for being a part of things. Enjoy the weather. It looks like things are supposed to be pretty warm for the rest of the week until that front moves through on Friday, and we're going to cross our fingers that the weather doesn't get too severe. We are expecting rain and maybe some high winds. That's what it says right now, but we'll keep an eye on it as if you need me to be a meteorologist. That's not my strong suit. I follow Jim Flowers online, and I trust what that man has to say. So that's my go-to. But as of right now, that's what the forecast is saying. So I'm not ready to start having spring storms just yet. Let's wait until we actually get to spring. How about that? My name's Todd Studer. Have a great Wednesday.